Welcome to the DGD Podcast. As always, Robert, that's Dan. The show's brought to you by our friends over at Alumni Hall. You know them, you love them. New Georgia gear in daily, folks. Get yourself geared up for game day this Saturday. Hell, we got a night game in Athens. Go get yourself some Alumni Hall gear in stores in Athens. Mention the show, get 10% off your order, or if you can't make it in stores, just go online, go to dgdpodcast.com/alumni hall, shop there, and 8% will go to the Classic City Collective. Do yourself a favor, get yourself some jerseys, hoodies, polos, hats, you name it, they got it. It's all licensed. Thanks, Alumni Hall, for supporting the show. With that being said, boys and girls, we are live and it's business time. Kobe, welcome in.
What's up? How are y'all?
Doing good. Hope you're doing well. I would assume you are.
Oh, yeah. Let's see if I can turn y'all up just a little bit.
Anyways, got a question that we want to lead off with. Kobe,
Okay.
you're a former player. The Georgia equipment social media.
Yeah.
Set Georgia fans into a frenzy, thinking that there might be some hesitancy and maybe a blackout. Right, the Spike Squad's called for the blackout. Right, players are wanting it. But the interesting thing was the equipment team folding the red jerseys up, but the song choice painted black. What do y'all make out of that?
Yeah, nothing at all. I mean, the equipment team, they love to have their fun, poke their fun, kind of do their thing with it all, but it definitely is not a legitimate threat.
Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing.
It's frustrating, obviously, as fans because you're wanting that, but at the same time, it's a clever little troll by the equipment team. I see a red door, red jersey, and I want to paint it black. Yeah, you want to paint it black, but guess what? It ain't getting painted black. Stadium might be black, but the jerseys won't be.
Yeah, no. Like you're saying, it just isn't going to happen. I wish it would. Again, maybe not even for this game. I think I would enjoy them to be in rotation, but it is what it is. I think that Kirby, you can say what you will, he doesn't enjoy them. He doesn't enjoy the distraction, but we've played good in them. People like to talk about, we're cursed in them. It's like, last 3 times you've worn them, you're 3-0. So
I think everybody has nightmares back to that 08 game.
Literally, though, I mean, what, you've worn them once that you've lost in the true black jerseys against Alabama? Like, you lost that game. And then, a lot of these under Rick, the ones that I have nightmares about, and I loved them, and I actually have, let's see, where is it? Behind me, right here. Wore the alternate lids against Florida that year and got beat to sleep. That was a rough year.
At least I hope we don't go back to the Power Ranger uniforms. The Boise State Power Ranger uniforms.
The 11s.
The helmet. What a time.
Oh, man.
We got beat by the Smurfs.
Get people some PTSD on that one. Anyways, I thought that was fun. I saw that. It's something that I'm just looking at, like, until you show me otherwise, like, I'm not buying it. I'm not doing it. But leave it to the equipment team to troll like crazy. Anyways, I guess let's talk Tennessee, guys. Tennessee coming to town. Georgia falls to 12 after this Ole Miss game. So let's make some of that. So Tennessee is 7th. We're 12th. Interesting little matchup, and Georgia's season's on the line from a playoff perspective. Don't necessarily know if we were thinking this at the preseason, but here we are. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that the seasons are long, and kind of things go different ways. I mean, I really thought after Alabama that we were going to kind of get things figured out offensively. I thought that, we were looking positive. We were doing some things, some good things, hitting some explosive plays. And I really thought that against Texas, we had some opportunities to really score some points as well. I really just thought the turnovers in a big game kind of hurt us. I did not think coming out of the Texas game that would kind of be the trend going forward into Florida, into Ole Miss. It's kind of like we hit that bye week before Florida and we kind of lost an identity of like what we're trying to do, what the offense is trying to do, how we're trying to score, where our playmakers are. I get it. You go to Ole Miss, it's tough. You go to Alabama, it's tough. Like, I think, to try to be undefeated this season was almost impossible. But, it is what it is. You have to win this game. I don't want to play in the playoffs if we don't win this game. I'd rather not play in the playoffs than get in there and look like you don't belong and get embarrassed by somebody. I think that, like you're saying, we were talking about the other night, 2019 team versus this team, there are a lot of similarities, a lot. And, we'll kind of see. I think that this team has responded a lot of times when things have kind of been challenged. But, again, Tennessee at night, if you can't get up for that and play a good game, then I don't know what can.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. That this team seems to lack that killer instinct that we had in the past. Where one of the things that I talked about was every time that Georgia felt threatened, every time Georgia felt like the opponent on the other sideline was worth their best effort, Georgia absolutely pounded them. And I was kind of hanging my hat on that going into Ole Miss. I felt like Georgia would respect the talent on the other side and go out there and put together a performance to equal the Texas performance, where we just played lights out for them. I mean, defensively at least. And I don't necessarily have a problem with the way our defense played in the past game, but this offense is a real cause for concern. And heading into a Tennessee game where you have a head coach very much similar to Lane Kiffin, where they can score a lot of points. You have a very aggressive coach who's willing to take some chances to put points on the board. And we just really haven't shown the ability to light that scoreboard up at will. At times we've scored, right? But it's not been easy for us. Nothing for this team this year has just come easy. Maybe that's just my perception. Maybe you guys have a different opinion, feeling on that, but nothing has come easy. And that makes me a little bit hesitant going in this game, but very much like you said, where we have to win this game to get in the playoffs, right? But even if we were to lose and somehow manage our way into the playoffs, I don't want to back our way into the playoffs. I don't think we had earned it, even though we have played the hardest schedule. They haven't earned it, in my opinion, at this point. And this game is going to be a benchmark of the season where you're going to look back at this game and this is it. This is the tipping point.
Well, and I think a lot of that comes from two things. One, the success you've had since 2017 consistently, right? I think about years that maybe we didn't make the playoffs, that maybe we all felt like we deserved to make the playoffs. I really think about that 19 season the 18 season, that 18 season when, that Notre Dame team sneaks in right above you and just gets absolutely throttled in the first round. Back-to-back years being the 5 seed kind of leaves that taste in your mouth of like, man, we really deserved a chance at this thing. I think now, 13, 14, 15, I think a team like us, a 3-loss team possibly, is going to be more of the, hey, it's not our year. We need to kind of get back to the drawing board, get some recruits in. Until you prove that you can have a great season and get hot down the stretch, what do you deserve?
I mean, the schedule be damned, right? Like if you're basing it off of Saturday, Georgia doesn't look like a playoff caliber team offensively for sure, right? That's something that Georgia's got to get squared away, which I think is a good transition for For the next piece here, how does Georgia offensively speaking? How do they operate efficiently with the news of ETN being out as well? And I feel like that's huge. That's huge. So how does Georgia overcome that?
I don't know exactly what the answer to that is. And I made on our show last night, I said that I felt like, granted, they're different positions. I felt like ETN being out for us would be the equivalent of Nico being out for them because he's the focal point of their offense. And I really feel like ETN is really what makes this offense go. He's so versatile. He's able to he's pick up blocks. We've seen him block in the backfield. We've seen him catch balls out of the backfield. We've seen him run. So I really feel like ETN not being available for this game is a major issue that Georgia's going to have to overcome. This is not a referendum on the abilities of Nate Frazier. I just think having a player of his capabilities not being available is a major blow to this football team.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing too on the Tennessee side, I know we talked about this offline. Losing ETN for this game kind of feels like the same caliber of Tennessee losing Nico, if he's even playing. I mean, you're hearing mixed things there, but at the same time, I'm gonna assume that he plays. We'll see.
I have a question for both of you, and it stems from Dan's statement there. Obviously, ETN, a big portal get, a guy that we paid a handsome NIL package for to have. Do you think that he has met expectations in your mind? Is he under expectations? Is he above expectations? And then where does he rank compared to, some other running backs in Kirby Smart's tenure? Do you think he's on up there with the James Cooks of the world? Think he's Brian Harrian's level? Think maybe somewhere in between? I just hear from both of y'all kind of, a take of how you think he's done so far and then kind of where he ranks.
I think he's done everything that he's been able. He's done everything that we thought he would do. The production isn't there because I don't think this offense is good all the way around. I don't think he's had the blocking. I don't think he's actually had more opportunities than I thought he had. It just felt like we didn't use him enough. But then again, I think the expectations for him were extremely high because we knew how productive he was at Florida, and we just assumed that Georgia's offense was going to be just as good as every other Georgia offense, and now we're just putting him into the running back position. So I think I have a twofold answer for that, and I'm not trying to straddle the fence and dodge the bullet here, but I'm saying I think he's doing everything he could possibly do. I don't think his lack of production is a fault of his own, if that makes any sense. I think he's lived up to the expectations as he's answered the bell. I just don't think the production is there. Is that fair?
I think to kind of go with Dan here too. I mean, from an impact perspective, I think he's everything we needed, right, for this offense specifically. Now, to be fair, the offense hasn't, like Harry in the comments are saying, the offense hasn't really gelled. He's made a lot of guys right from a blocking perspective. Made a lot of guys miss, obviously, and provided some sparks when there was nothing there. So from an impact perspective, I think he's everything we needed. But I think it's just a kind of a detriment to the personnel and the execution around him. That's kind of what maybe have dampened his impact and how the year was expected to be. I know you were talking about trying to maybe compare him to some of the previous running backs. I don't think I think he's extremely talented. I can't say he's as impactful as a guy like DeAndre Swift, but I definitely think he's above Harry and even Cook. Just based off of providing a spark in the run game, there's no other run game that we've had at this point, right? So I would put him in maybe right there. I'd put him above Cook and Harry and guys like that. But then again, you start to get to that Swift tier, I can't put him there. So he's in between for me. And honestly, I'm trying not to knock him. It's just the offensive production around him is just really hurt because you can only do so much.
Yeah, no doubt. I just, throwing it out there. He's one of the bigger, notable NIL deals that we've had since NIL has begun. So, him, Dom Lovett, rah, guys that we all know we paid not huge money, but nice money to come and play. And, what's that production look like? What's that ROI? What's that return on investment?
That Georgia degree is making you sound smart, Kobe. I like it.
Yeah, I just think it has to be said that he has not been a bust, right? He has not shown up and not done the work. And I think that's important to say that in all appearances, he showed up ready to work, and he's doing the very best that he can. He's not dogging it out there. He's not being lazy. He's not checking himself out of the game. So I think it's fair to say his production is not what we had hoped, but I don't think it's fair to say that, I don't think it's fair to put it on him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair to say across the board. Ain't no way to get around it. So obviously, we're looking at ETN being out, but Georgia's got a serious running back issue right now. You're looking at both Robinsons and ETN being out completely, and Cash Jones was questionable on the initial report. So I'm gonna make an assumption. I'm gonna let y'all guys speculate on it. Part of me thinks that you're going to see Dylan Bell at running back at some point. But at the same time, the reason I say that is Dylan Bell has been a difference maker in these Tennessee games. You got to find a way to get the offense moving. You got to find a way to get him the ball, because I think he's a very good player with the ball in his hands. I don't necessarily know if you trust Bowens yet. I would love to see Dwight Phillips get some run, right? You've got the backs, but they're not experienced at all. You've got, at this point, you got Nate Frazier, Cash Jones, and then, like I said, you've got the other two freshmen. Part of me thinks you see Dylan Bell at running back. And ironically speaking, it's extremely familiar and similar to last year with the running back depth, right? Just bunch of guys. Now, fortunately for us, we picked up 3 freshman running backs in the class. Last year, we didn't have that. Do y'all think that Dylan Bell gets run running back, or do you think we rely on freshmen and unleash and let Bowens get some run?
It looks like Kobe had something to say.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the screen pass haters, this is not gonna be the week for you to watch football. There will be a lot. If you think we throw a lot of screens like normally, there will be a lot of run replacement production in quick screens, swing passes, bubble screens. It could be a screen fest. Just to try to get ahead of the stick some. I'll be interested to see how much run Dylan Bell gets, though, just straight up like hand him off like a zone read play. I could see him being the guy you bring in a jet motion or bring in like a revert or a return motion. There are plays like that I see other teams do on us when they know we're in zone coverage that they're very easy, simple concepts that we could run with a guy like him super effectively. Even a guy like Arian, get him moving, sideline to sideline. I'll be surprised. How about that? That'll be my final comment on Dylan Bell. I'll be surprised if I see a ton of like shotgun, him lined up, and just, straight hand the ball off and let him run up inside. I think you would see that from Frazier, or even, I really do think Dwight Phillips is earning a role in this offense. And I think his speed can be, changing for holes that are small and blocks that aren't being held long.
But, the one thing that Georgia has going for it is Georgia has a great history of when a freshman running back is given the ball in a lead role for the first time, they've had a lot of success. I mean, if you go all the way back to Todd Gurley's freshman year, when he became the lead back, just ultra productive. Now, granted, I'm not saying that Frazier is that, but, Nick Chubb, whenever Gurley went down, he became the lead back. He exploded on the scene. DeAndre Swift, his freshman year. I think people forget how freaking good DeAndre Swift was his freshman year. All three of those guys were extremely productive their freshman year. So now Frazier doesn't have anybody in front of him. This is his first time really where from the opening bell, he's going to be the lead running back. And I think we have a chance to see him explode. I really do. And I know that we haven't really seen anything to this point that says that's going to happen. I'm just leaning on the history of Georgia. And every time that they've turned to a freshman running back as the lead dog, he's had a really good game. And this is a massive football game. I get that. Tennessee's a much improved defense. It's not going to be easy. But, I think for a guy like Frazier, this is a welcome to America type deal where he has an opportunity to really announce himself and, as they said in Bull Durham, announce my presence with authority.
I think another thing though too, it's kind of an impact type game. I guess you could say a strategy here is how do you eliminate Tennessee's rush? How do you neutralize that? How do you game plan against that?
Yeah,
you got draws, right?
Well, hold on. We got James Pierce, which is arguably one of the best players in the country. So I watched him all the way back when he was at Chambers. I know all about him. Kid is legit. You're looking at a Tennessee team that can get after the get up field and pass rush and stuff like that. I feel like part of me wants to see us spread them out, run sideline to sideline, and try to get outside in the perimeter blocking. But that also calls for your blocking to be better on the perimeter. Do we feel confident enough to set the edge, right? Like to get around the edge and into creases? Do we feel confident in that? I feel like that would be I wouldn't say easy. I'd say it would be an effective way to neutralize that pass rush and protect back a little bit as well. Would you agree, or do you see something different that Georgia could do to kind of neutralize that pass rush?
You want to go first this time, Dan?
Go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say on this.
Okay, yeah. So I think first and foremost, easiest way to slow down good pass rush is being in plus situations, 3rd and 5 or less. I think that is something this offense has struggled doing consistently. Is putting yourself in winnable downs, especially in 3rd down. You look back at that Ole Miss game, how many times we're in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, very obvious passing downs. Not only obvious passing downs, but the kind of down that, you have to let routes develop downfield for them to be far enough to be past the sticks. You're having to hold that block for 2 or 3 seconds to allow someone to be at a 13-yard cutting in or cutting out to be able to throw that ball. I think, like you're saying, running the ball. I think motion and receivers, we should do these explode motions where
scatter motion, where you just kind of everybody scatters out into
but a lot of times what I think of is we trips to the boundary, one guy to the field, and then we kind of explode out of the trips into something farther outside, and then run the ball either into the trips or run some kind of pin pull back away from the trips. You overload one side, pull the guard, and then you have +1 blocker going back the other way.
Yeah, run to the numbers, basically.
Yeah, or create the numbers, basically, too.
Well, yeah. I mean, it also dictates what the defense is going to do, too, if you scatter like that, too.
Well, it just keeps people kind of guessing because, I look at, what Ole Miss did to us. You make somebody like Pierce, you make somebody like Michael, you make somebody like Damon Wilson, who loves to get after the passer. You make them have to do something else or think about something else. That's typically how you can impact that person the best is do I need to be rushing the passer right now? Do I need to be covering the tight end in the flat? Do I need to be covering the wheel route going out of the backfield? Do I need to be worried about the wide receiver in motion going to, chip me on his way by? The more you can have people thinking, are they even throwing the ball right now? Are they about to run the ball? The more you can kind of have going through an elite pass rusher's mind, I think the better chance that you maybe don't have to block him perfectly every time. Sometimes he can block himself.
Yeah, no,
So,
go ahead.
everything he just said is 100% accurate. I can't disagree with any of that. But through the history of time, screens and draws have really slowed down a pass rush, right? Because, like to your point, they have to think about something else. But one of the things that I really noticed, and Harrison had the all 22, and he broke down all the pressure plays in the backfield. The one thing that never really changed was Carson Beck's landing point. He was in the same spot all day long. They weren't moving him around. They weren't changing his landing point. He was always in the same spot depth-wise in the pocket, and he was right centrally located. And they were able to tee off and get to a spot. And if you're changing that drop spot, you're changing his placement in the pocket and moving him around a little bit. Now, I understand that he's not the rollout kind of guy where you can get him on the edge to make plays. I understand what he is, but I'm saying within the pocket, and part of the reason was because the offensive line was getting beat so badly up the middle that he wasn't able to step up in the pocket. So I understand all that, but my point is, to have success in this game, you're going to have to move him around in the pocket a little bit and just not making him a standing target. Because if he's an immobile target that's in the same spot every single time, that makes it very easy for a defender to get to him. The blocking has to get better, to your point. And some of that can be offset by, like you said, giving them a lot to think about, not letting them just pin their ears back. Staying ahead of the change is the major contributor to that, because if you're in a situation 3rd and short, you can either run or pass. Now they have to think about both, where as opposed to 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9, the only way they're going to pick that up is to throw for it, typically speaking. So there's a lot that goes into it, right, Kobe? There's a lot that goes into it. But at the end of the day, there are some very simple things you can do to, and you can't eliminate a pass rush if they have a really good one, but you can slow it down.
Yeah, I think something simple is Beck catches it from the gun and immediately rolls to the right, but have a tight end kind of leak under the flat route, right? Like a quick, like get him comfortable. And it seems like, you just got to connect with those. Right? It's basically like Carson's done really well over his time as quarterback when he's allowed play action. Right. That involves having an efficient run game. That involves time to protect, things like that. And we don't have that right now. Right. So you've got to find ways, and Dan brings up a perfect point, right? Changing the launch point, right? If a defender has to adjust over and over, it honestly helps your tackles. But you've also got to make sure that you're protecting the right way, and really communication. And I want to kind of go to this because we've seen the offensive line struggle with communication, but at the end of the day, we've also seen them on the road in the SEC struggling to communicate. There's no excuse now. You're at home. If you're having issues with communication and things like this now, at that point, there's no helping you there, right? Like, I've heard people trying to give them the benefit of a doubt, like, hey, listen, it was bad, but hey, they're on the road, things like that. And fair, I guess. But if you're at home and you still struggle with communication and passing defenders off and things like that, you got to handle stunts because they will do it. You've got to protect those and identify those. And how are you going to pass those off? And if you can't do that, Georgia's in for a long ass day, or night, I should say.
Not only that, though, but I think my thing, too, is if you know it's a problem, if you know it's a worry, that's, again, to me, where, like, the offensive line coach, the offensive coordinator, you have to have some idea of how to protect your weaknesses. You can't let your weakness just continue to be your weakness. If your O-line can't hold up for 5-step drops, you've got to give some underneath throws to Carson Beck. You have to give him that option on 3rd and 3 that we don't need 13 yards. We need 3. And I need somebody running at the 4-yard mark and running, moderately open. I think that's what gets to be so difficult sometimes watching some of our 3rd down plays is either, we're running at the 5-yard mark on a 7-yard stick, or we're running double covered at 13 yards, which I understand. The defense knows what we're trying to do on 3rd and 8. We're trying to get 8 yards. So obviously they're protecting the sticks. But, I think in early downs, having some easy throws to get ahead of the sticks that aren't just screens, they aren't just swing passes. Maybe there's something to the tight end, a pop pass, something quick over the middle. I think that Ole Miss really opened our eyes to like identifying matchups in coverage. Like, where are my matchups the best? Is Lawson Lucky versus your outside linebacker not a matchup that I can take advantage of anytime I want to? Can I go back to the well 8 times? Can Lawson Lucky have 9 catches for 110 yards because you keep putting an outside linebacker on him and I keep throwing it NCAA style? Like, stop it.
One of the things that I noticed when I was watching the all 22 with the offensive line was, one of the sacks in particular, I think it was like a 3rd down, and Ernest Green was out of tackle, and his guy tried to do a speed rush. He was in a wide 9, and he did a speed rush upfield, right? Well, he did a good job of just running him up the field, right? But at the same time, number 4 got penetration through the middle, so Carson Beck couldn't step up in the pocket, which if he was able to step up in the pocket, that guy never gets to him, but Carson Beck has to take another step back and right into oncoming traffic, and bam, sack. And now they're like, oh, Ernest Green gave up a sack. No, the hell he didn't. Ernest Green did exactly what he was supposed to do. With a wide 9 guy trying to get up the field, he runs him up the field, and your quarterback should have never been there, right? So you just can't, if you've ever played on an offensive line, there are times you're going to get beat, right? But when multiple guys get beat on the same play, that's a disastrous situation. So it's just got to get better. I mean, at the end of the day, the offensive line has to get better. It just has to get better. It wasn't great against Ole Miss, but with a whole week of practice, like to your point, the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach have to get down, sit down, and you would think at the level that they're at the quality that they are, they would be able to come up with a way to your point, hide their weakness, which coming into the season, I didn't have Georgia's offensive line listed as one of the weaknesses. I honestly didn't believe that would be the case.
I guess this is a good time to transition into let's do this real fast before we get into some keys to victory. Georgia's got a ton of recruiting visitors this weekend. Obviously headlining is, I guess you could call it headlining. You've got Juju Lewis in town. This kind of late, I think it's kind of interesting. Considering, for the longest time, we felt like we were out on that situation, but now he's coming back for a visit. So what to make of that? But then also, if you listen to guys, this is exciting. You've got Elijah Griffin, Isaiah Gibson, John Tavius Wyman, Tavion Wallace, Chase Linton before his commitment next week. There's a ton of it, a ton of visitors and stuff. I think this is a perfect chance for Kirby to really just, if you want to say it, drop his nuts and make a statement. If you can do that, then that's going to say a lot. And I expect the crowd, like I said before at the beginning of the show, right? The Spike Squad has called for a blackout. So if you are going Saturday, make sure to wear some black. Just to let you know there. But
I was talking to a high school coach, and I asked him about these visits. And he said sometimes the kid just wants to see a good effing game.
I believe it for sure.
But my argument back to him is, I was like, well, this is the first time in the last couple of years where these kids are going to be on campus and are going to see an opportunity to play, right? I mean, if you think about those teams that we've had in the past, as a recruit, I don't know how you look at the product on the field and be like, I'm going to take that guy's job, because they were elite. But I think the kids that are coming in this year, they're going to look at it on the field and say, I can see myself playing right away.
Yeah. I mean, I think you look at it right now, if you're Dylan Raiola, a year removed right now, if he's a high school senior, you look at kind of the product on the field, you're like, we're not really sure there is a number 2 in Athens. We haven't seen him. We've seen this team maybe have an opportunity to just get Carson a breather, just out for a drive and like, hey man, let's look at this from a different perspective for 5 snaps. And then, he's going to go back out there, but kind of like the Texas game, man, you're seeing ghost. Let's let you watch one from the sideline, and then we're going to get you back out there with some juice and, a new head of steam. But I agree with you 100%, Dan. Like, I definitely think that for the first time in probably 3 or 4 recruiting cycles, if you're good enough to play, there are real avenues for you to play as a freshman in more positions than just like safety or the occasional, DB.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you're looking at guys like, like I said, Elijah Griffin and Isaiah Gibson, right? But then if you look at certain positions, right, on the offensive side of the ball, right, you're going to have a tons of receivers, right? You got, like I said, Juju. If he really wants to take it serious, we'll see. I guess we'll find out. At this point in time, I mean, I think it's noteworthy that he's coming up, especially when they've got playoffs to go to. Dan's point is, I think, 100% accurate. Sometimes they just do want to go watch a good game. I've seen that before happen myself. So it'll be interesting there, but I think Georgia can make an impression, and some kids can really, I mean, depending on how this game goes, there's narratives that you can push, right? Like, hey, listen, this is your opportunity to come in and play right away. Maybe it forces, I don't want to sit here and say this, but maybe looking ahead, you start to really look at maybe just playing the best players and kind of going away from a little bit of the seniority. But I mean, it's also Kirby Smart. Let's be honest. Kobe, you know him all too well.
I've got one more point to make on Juju, right? So think about the change that's happened since he made his commitment to USC. When he was a younger player, freshman, sophomore in high school, he wasn't really seriously looking at Georgia because Georgia was the run-first team, right? They didn't throw the ball out enough. Georgia's throwing the ball about 65 to close to 70% of the time now. They're a much different team. They are airing the ball out. Well, with Beck, not so much, but they are showing the willingness to throw the football, right? So, like now, if you're a quarterback like Julian Lewis who wants to throw the football, Georgia's a real contender because we are throwing the football. And then also, to the point that I was making earlier, is when he looks out on the field as a competitor that he is and as talented as he is, and not arrogant's not the right word, but as confident as he is, you've got to believe that he's looking on the field going, I could do better than that. There's nobody here that can beat me out. And I don't know that was the truth. I don't know that was the truth when he was looking at Georgia the first time.
Yeah, I think the preconceived notion was that, you know what I mean, like you had a good quarterback room. There was going to be opportunities for those guys to play and kind of show themselves. But even then, we haven't saw much of Gunnar Stockton at all. I mean, we've had a ton of Carson Beck, right? And honestly, I think looking ahead from the preseason, I don't think we expected that. I thought we would see more Gunnar by this point, or more Rashad or whoever. Right, we would see more backup play, and that has obviously not happened. So, like I said, I think when you look at these recruits coming in, I think that is an interesting perspective to look at in that sense of now you're looking at opportunity and very, very realistic opportunity at that. I think that's a key to look at there. Speaking of key, let's talk about the keys to victory for Saturday night. What are the keys to victory for Georgia to win this game Saturday? Who wants to start?
I'll go. I mean, they have to establish a running game, and then they have to control the clock and not turn the damn ball over. I mean, because you can't let this Tennessee offense have more plays than you. I just don't think that's a recipe for success. Although I think our defense is very good, I don't think you can just let this offense run up and down the field. So I think the running game is essential to controlling the clock. And, of course, turnovers. You can't turn the ball over and give Tennessee short fields, because I think that if we put our defense in that position more than once, I don't know that they can live to tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, for keys to the game, I agree. I think you have to establish some kind of run, and I'll say run/ball control, because I'm not sure I'm confident you can, really sustain the run all game. But I am confident that you should, as an offensive coordinator, be able to draw up a game plan of passes that are going to allow for 8, 9, 10, 11 play drives. But also I think that to Dan's credit, and something that we just haven't done, I think you got to get some easy ones. man, when's the last time we've seen an explosive play? When's the last time? I mean, Arian Smith's the fastest man on grass. How has he not been dropping a pass 60 yards down the field recently?
We ain't have time
at all. But I'm just saying though, like, I look at some of the best games, some of those flash plays that we make, in years past, whether it's Ladd, whether it's Arian, whether it's somebody, you draw them up, Miko, somebody you draw up to be open. And it's not 3 or 4 times a game, but it's 1 or 2 times a game. And when it's there, you got to hit it. And, it's a big momentum play, especially at home, keeps the crowd in it. I think that's a key to the game. I think starting moderately fast to keep the crowd enthused early, I mean, it's going to make things tough on Tennessee. You go out there, you lay an egg, you go, 3 and out, kick a field goal, and it's 7-3 Tennessee. I mean, yeah, the crowd's still going to be loud. There's 94,000 people in the stadium, but not like it could be if it was 14-3 after the first 2 drives. You're really going to have people chomping at the bit, being loud while Tennessee's got the ball. That's what you want from a night game, especially.
I mean, we've seen in 2022 how the crowd impacted that. Right now, to be fair, Tennessee's offensive line is very upperclassman led right now. I think a lot of these guys will be gone after this year, but they're a very experienced offensive line in regards to seniority and upperclassmen, right? Still, I think the crowd could play a factor in this game. Like you said, being loud, we saw them have tons of false starts, and that hinders them too. Tennessee hasn't really been clicking to the ways that they did with Hendon Hooker, right? So, to be fair on that, I'm giving them credit. Dylan Sampson has been running lights out. They've shown that if they can't connect like they need to in the passing game, and especially the deep game, they just hand the ball off and just feed Dylan Sampson over and over and over. And to the point, it's worked, right? It's worked. So my key to victory, I think, is you have to limit the explosive plays in the passing game. I think we all know that Dylan Sampson is going to be able to, try to run the ball and things like that. If you can get them to be, I wouldn't say completely because that's hard to do, but if you can maybe limit yourself to like 1 or 2 explosive plays downfield, I think you have a very good shot to slow down that offense. I really do.
Well, let me ask you this. This is a legitimate question. This isn't meant to be sarcastic. When's the last time we had an explosive run? Like a 60, 70-yard touchdown run? I mean, Swift had
Georgia,
him,
right?
Gurley had him, Chubb had him. Yeah, for Georgia. I mean, when's the last time we had a running back hit a seam and go 65 yards for a touchdown?
I think it was Cook, if anything.
The last one I remember was Swift against Auburn in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, the last one I remember is Stetson Bennett running against Auburn.
Oh, yeah. But you get my point, though. Yeah, because you said you want the explosive plays, and I agree with you 100%. We've got to hit some, like, we got to have an easy one. But I can't remember the last time a freaking running back hit a seam and went 65 yards for a touchdown. That's a huge momentum play.
Well, no, I know, but what I'm saying too is we have to limit Tennessee from hitting their explosive
I get that. I get that. I was piggybacking on Kobe's statement.
Well, I got you. Yeah. So I think for me, if you limit the explosives, right, I trust Brett Thorson to be able to pin them back deep, right? The question is, if they can flip the field in one play, that could be the difference maker there. I'm not saying it will be, but I'm saying it could be. So if you limit the explosives, I think that is your biggest factor there. Kenway50 in the comments says they need to pressure their quarterback, and I 100% agree. Make him uncomfortable. And I think, now to be fair, if he gets uncomfortable, I wouldn't be surprised to see them also run Dylan Sampson as well. They're going to run Dylan Sampson a lot. So I think to that point, you have to be aggressive on defense and block them up and really hinder their run game.
The other thing that's important to remember is Nico's extremely talented, but he's young.
Like you're saying, what games, when I've watched him, what games has he just taken over? Like you're saying, he's definitely he's been a young quarterback. No, he's been the young quarterback that's leaned on the run game, which is fine. I mean, plenty of
100%.
really good and talented young quarterbacks have leaned on run games early in their career. That's not a knock on Nico, but if you can limit Sampson and his effectiveness and take away the big momentum plays, if you make Nico do what Dart had to do and bend, don't break, take the 5, take the 6 yards over and over and over again, I don't see that going as well for Nico as it did for Jackson.
With that being said,
I think you can make an argument. I was
Go
going
ahead.
to say you
Go
can
ahead,
make an
Dan.
argument that Jackson Dart's playing quarterback better than anybody in the country right now.
Yeah.
So that and it wasn't easy for him all day. You know what I mean? Like they've settled for 4 field goals. Again, my point is that this guy is probably playing quarterback better than anybody in the country, and our defense made it very difficult on him. So if you extrapolate that down to Nico, I don't think he can do what Jackson did.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I saw something out of Lane for the first time, one of the first times, some maturity out of the head coach. Like you're saying, they kicked the field goals. They got in the field goal range, and they kicked them. They didn't go for it on 4th and 4. They didn't try to run a reverse pass to score a touchdown, run the score up. They got down there, field goal range. They kicked the field goal. They said, that's a win in our book. We'll take it. We'll play defense. That's something that we haven't seen out of Lane Kiffin in the past.
I mean, to be fair, going back on that, he was very confident in their defensive game plan too. But either way, let's do this. Who is the X factor? Who is your X factor for this game Saturday? Who's going to be that player?
Yeah, I would say either C.J. Allen or Raylan Wilson at this point. I mean, somebody's got to step up and play inside linebacker and defend the run properly. They have to, fit the gaps, shed blocks, make tackles, and they can't miss them when they have them. I think that's been my biggest disappointment in the linebacking core is sometimes whenever they're initially blocked, they stay blocked. Like, I'm fine with if a guard comes up and is blocking you, I need you to shed that block and make the tackle for a gain of 3 or a gain of 4. I don't need you to continue to be blocked and all of a sudden that's gone for 14. I understand not every play can be a negative play, but I need you disrupting things even when you're in the wrong position.
Fight through the wash. That's one of the things that there was a linebacker, maybe you guys remember, maybe you don't, Paul Postlowski, played for Penn State back in the day. And, that's one of the things I remember watching his tape is he never got caught up in the wash. He just had the ability to seek it out and get through it. But I think that's a very sound pick, and I can't argue against that. But I think due to the circumstances, I think the most important player or the X factor to Georgia being successful is Nate Frazier. He's being put in a role that he's never been in before at the University of Georgia, where he is the in question number 1 running back in the football game. It's an extremely important football game. Like the impact of the game and then what he's going to be asked to do, he has to be successful for us to be successful. So by virtue of what's being laid at his feet, he is the X factor because he's got to be successful for best. I don't see a scenario, Kobe and Robert, I don't see a scenario where Georgia comes out of this game winning if we can't run the football.
Protect that football, by the way, too. If I had to do my X factor,
you do.
I think it's Dylan. I'm going old school. Go Dylan Bell. I just want to say I think Dylan Bell has shown to me he comes up big, and even if it's just this game, he comes up big in these games for some reason, and I think you're going to see him get utilized, whether it be receiver or running back. I think you can see that. And I think you'll see him I think you need him there. I know you're talking about Nate Frazier as well. I kind of want to see, this would be a fun game to watch Dwight Phillips get some interesting runs and design plays. I would like to see that. You talk about speed, he's got it too. But I'm looking at it right here. To me, I think this is a Dylan Bell game. I mean, I think you need him in the receiving game, and I think you can use him in the running back room as well. Looking at defense, I think, I thought the linebackers was a good call. I get this feeling that like a Tyrion Ingram Dawkins would be a good call on this as well. It kind of work inside and stop the run game, right? I don't necessarily know if I want to say the pass rushing as much, but I could see that as well. But if I had to do my X factor, I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna go Dylan Bell on this one.
Let me ask you a question. Is there any way at the end of this game we say somebody like Scovey White or Nitro Tuggle made an amazing play?
I'd fucking
Is there any
love
way
it.
that happened? I
Love
mean,
it.
because we've kind of been waiting for them to have an opportunity. And the depth, with Evans not being available, and I don't know, it just for some reason to me, games like this, there's usually a player that comes out of freaking nowhere that just does something incredible. And wouldn't that be kind of cool if it was like a Scovey White or a Nitro Tug?
It'd be so fun to see, though. You're gonna get a part of the fan base, so lose their ever loving minds.
I think if you had
because
to
you're
put
gonna
a bet on that, though, it would probably be Dwight Phillips. Like if I had to say a player that comes out of nowhere and has a big game, has a big play, I think the trend right this second would be Dwight Phillips. He seems to be trending to more playing time right now, more trust being given to him. And like you said, with that speed, like you said, with when's the last time you've seen somebody pop off a big run? That's the kind of guy on a quick end around or on a a tall sweep, make one man miss and there he goes kind of thing. So
I think another thing too to add to that though, right? I wish I could say everybody because I need everybody to do their job, right? It's simple to hear. You hear Belichick say it all the time, but do your job, right? I saw earlier in the comments, tight ends need a block, right? Perimeter blocking needs to be better. If you can do that, you get them sideline to sideline, right? Tennessee's I think they're deep defense as well, defensively. So you try to gas them out, but I think at the same time, though, I just get this feeling Dwight Phillips can. I'll call it a shot, but I think Dwight Phillips can hit a big shot. I think you need him to. You might see, honestly, it might sound crazy. I would love to see him kind of go from the. I'm gonna be specific. Go from the running back, motion him to empty, and then force him on a linebacker. Maybe hit an angle route. When was the last time we saw an angle route besides James Cook? Maybe. I mean, yeah, that's where I'm at with it. Other than that, any final thoughts on this preview?
I think we beat that dog.
Yep, I agree.
All right, boys. The Tennessee matchup is set. Dawgs will. We've done our preview there. Stick around. We're gonna do a pick'ems for the week, and it's time for the pick'ems. Had to do that. By the way, you'll understand. But it's time for the pick'ems. Let's do this. If I'm not mistaken, I've got the standings from last week. Right. So here we go. Here are the standings from last week. A pretty good week. Juan went 8-2, hit both of his picks and got 12 points. Keon went 8-2 and got 8 points. Kobe, you went 7-3, got 11 points. I went 8-2 and got 12 points. Dan did the same thing. The Brigade went 7-3 and got 9 points. So overall a good week, and overall the standings are looking like this. Dan in the lead with 105 points on the season, 89-31 record. Kobe 1 point behind, 86-34, but it got 104 points. Brigade, Jaden leading there, 102 points, 82-38 record. Then it's me down here, 87-33 with 87 points, and Juan is 81-39 with 74 points. So we're dragging on behind. What can I say? Let's do this. Jump into the first game of the week. Going to the Big 12, going out west. I think this is a noon game Eastern time, so this is going to be early. I think it's probably 10 o'clock in the morning. Utah taking on Colorado. Coach Prime's got that team arguably in contention to win the Big 12. That's interesting. But let's see what the panel says in regards to our picks. Juan is riding solo, and I'm baffled by this, Kobe. Juan picks Utah, even when he calls them trash all the time. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think this is a big game. Like you're saying, I think that at this point in the season, some of that Big 12 has shaken out differently than we thought it was. You know, they've beaten an Arizona team that is not near as good as we once thought they would be in the preseason. And they've kind of scrapped and hung on. You know, they're a 2-loss team. I think right now they would make the Big 12 championship if they went out. So you just never know. It's the kind of team that the bigger expanded playoff is made for. With that being said, I picked them. I would gladly give that point to Juan this weekend if they would lose for us.
I'm with you.
I would happily. Here's my point, Juan. Cherish it. Take care of it. I think that even, and maybe this is just me at this point in the year, and I know I was riding the train early on in the season, talking about Travis Hunter. It was his Heisman to lose, and don't get me wrong, still unbelievably impressive. But I've definitely kind of switched gears to the Ashton Genty Heisman race, in my opinion, and I think that he's just losing out because of the popularity at this point. And I don't think that's necessarily right, but it'll make for some good TV. Utah pissed off. They really think that one got stolen from them last week against BYU. I don't know if either of y'all watched that game.
Utah's trash. I ain't watching that. No, you're right.
Yeah, pretty good game. So
I'll take your word for it. Dan, you don't have any comments on this game, do you?
No, I just feel like Colorado was one of those teams that they were so over the top last year that everybody turned on them. But if you kind of take a step back, Dion did a good job in the offseason of kind of cleaning up that roster, and he brought in a lot of guys. And when you do that, not all of them are going to work. And I think he's fixed a lot of issues. And I do think they are being well coached, actually, across the board, and they are getting better, as much as kind of pains me to say that.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, he's doing a good job over there regardless. So, but like I said, everyone has Colorado except for Juan with Utah. I don't understand it, but Juan, if you get it right, buddy, good job for you. Good job for you. We stay in the Big 12. This is interesting. Arizona State taking on Kansas State. Listen, I'm all for the Scatterbo train, by the way. The Amish freight train. I love it. Just let that be known. Kansas State's kind of been a little bit disappointing this year, but at the same time, they're not doing too bad. With that being said, here is what the panel chose. Myself and Keon rolling with the Sun Devils. Everyone else going with Kansas State. We move to the ACC, Boston College. SMU, year one, looking like a potential ACC title contender at the very least. I think this one's easy, guys. Panel has spoken. Clean sweep.
I'm pretty sure I saw something that if SMU, maybe it's not this week, they're getting close to like being guaranteed to be in though. I think maybe
they've become my guilty pleasure to watch SMU. Like I'm kind of rooting for them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, could you imagine running the table the first year in the ACC when you were the exact school that Florida State, pulled out in the lawsuit saying the likes of Florida State should never play in a conference with a team like SMU. It's like, whew. How's that going for you right now?
Come again, Mr. Norvell. Come again.
How's that going?
Let's do this. Big Ten, UCLA, Washington. Looking at this right here, and I think this game is very interesting, to say the least. The panel has spoken. Myself,
I love a Pac-12 after dark game.
You mean Big Ten after dark? But either way, myself, Keon, and the Brigade riding with the Bruins. Kobe, Juan, Dan. rolling with the Huskies. I think it should be a good matchup, though. I really do. I think it'll be a good matchup. Looking forward to seeing how that game shakes out. Staying in the Big Ten, Oregon going to Camp Randall, undefeated record, taking on Wisconsin. The panel has spoken. Guys, it's a clean sweep. Let's be honest. Don't see that being any kind of issue for Oregon. I mean, it's a road game, but I don't see anything changing on that one, guys. I don't know about y'all.
Camp Randall is a tough place to play. They do have a good home field, and Wisconsin's actually played pretty decent this year. But yeah, I think Oregon's playing as well as anybody.
Yeah, Oregon's the most complete team in the country right now, for what it's worth, in my opinion. Now, this is where it gets fun, boys. We're rolling through the SEC. Texas, Arkansas. It should be interesting.
You can fast forward through this game.
Yeah, the panel has spoken. Clean sweep, Texas. Kobe had his hands up for a second. I'm trying to figure out why.
I was just going to say, you're not going to catch me riding with the pit boss this week.
Oof. I know that hurt you, didn't it? That hurt you inside. I know it did. Moving on. LSU taking on Florida in the swamp. DJ Lagway starting. What do we make of that, boys? That's interesting. The panel has spoken. It's LSU still. I'm sorry. It's still LSU until proven otherwise. I don't trust Lagway health right now to be 100% at all. Just don't see it. Just don't see it. This game is going to be interesting because if you had this on the 2024 bingo card, hey, more power to you. Missouri taking on South Carolina. Willie B. This is interesting, but the panel has spoken. South Carolina across the board. I don't think Brady Cook will play, and if that is the case, buddy, that shit's about to be bad. It's about to get nasty. Yeah. Dylan Stewart is a freak of nature. I want everybody to know that. Tennessee, Georgia, night game in Athens. Boys, we talked about this on the preview, and the panel has spoken. Here are your results. Whew, a clean sweep for the Dawgs. Anybody hesitant on that? I just couldn't pick I couldn't pick that orange. I couldn't see it beside my name. Just couldn't do it. There you go. And for Jaden's game of the week, Clemson taking on Pitt. We'll leave it here. Listen, Jaden gets his way. He gets to pick his game. The panel has spoken for Clemson Pitt. It is a clean sweep. Clemson taking the game in Pittsburgh. For the locks of the week, I have myself. I've got Oregon State taking down Air Force at a -4. Keon and Juan both have Ohio State beating Northwestern, covering 30.5. Holy cow. Yeah. Kobe, you had Miami taking on Kent State. I think that game's already been played.
And they've already covered. Thank you.
So we're doing that right there. Dan has got Oregon covering -14 at Wisconsin. Upset alert. Who's on upset alert? Let's see. I've got Baylor on upset alert. I got West Virginia knocking them down at +2.5. Keon and Dan, y'all both have Nebraska taking down USC at 8.5. Kobe, you've got Houston upsetting Arizona. And Juan's got Stanford, as always, upsetting Louisville. Just saying. That's interesting little slate of games right there. I was honestly, though, Kobe, I was surprised that hit, the lock of the hit, your lock hit at first. But then I realized Kent State's horrible. They are horrible.
Brother, they're 0-9 now, I think, or 0-10.
They're 0-10. Yeah, they're
rough week. Rough week to be the Golden Flashes. Or I guess like rough 10 weeks to be the Golden Flashes. I don't really know how. Is it ever a good week? to be a Kent State.
This reminds
Yeah.
me.
I can't
Of
remember
this
one.
reminds me of the Mud Dogs of South Central Louisiana State University.
And there ain't no Bobby Boucher coming after halftime either.
You're
Didn't Nick Saban play for Kent State?
Yeah, he did.
He did.
That's a
He
great
did.
pull.
That's it. I'd be damn. That was a good call.
Do you remember? I'm pretty sure their head coach left to be the OC at Colorado as well, if I remember right. That's kind of crazy.
Serious? That's crazy. We're gonna take a quick second to pull up the graphics for the overall picks for anybody that is curious. You can see it right here. It will also be up on social media. If you want to follow the weekly picks, there you have it. Final thoughts before we send this.
Dan, did we pick the same games?
I think so.
Very, very yes.
Damn it, Dan.
Identical. Except
Well,
for
if my lock doesn't hit, then you'll pick up the point to tie me.
Yeah, but I like to do it on the regular pick'ems.
I know. Well, I told Robert the way he's got this whole finagled thing going on is kind of crazy. I should be walking away with this thing.
Hey,
makes it interesting.
it's hard to be on top.
Nah. Yeah, it is. You're right.
This is
It is.
this is week 10?
Nah, this is week 12.
Shit, 12 weeks on top? I don't know. I like the view from the top.
I bet it looks fun.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh man, I saw it at week 0 for like that first moment, and then everything else fell downhill. But either way, any final thoughts before we wrap up for the night, boys? Before we send everybody home to watch the game?
Get a good night's sleep. You're going to need it. It's going to be a long day Saturday.
Yeah, be
Just to
loud,
get to
wear
the
black.
You said what, Kobe?
Don't drink yourself into a coma by 7.
Yeah, I said be loud, wear black.
I have to second that. With that being said, that is all we've got for you. Have a great rest of your morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this or listening to this. Also, make sure to like, follow, subscribe. Apple, Spotify, leave us a rate and review. It does a ton for the show. But with that being said, that's all we've got for you. We'll see y'all next time.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.